September 3, 1943, Europe was burning, and the world stood divided between loyalty and survival. In the middle of that chaos lived a woman whose name the history books would never record, yet her story became one of the most haunting tales of the Second World War. Her code name was Shadow Rose, an American-born OSS operative sent deep into Nazi-occupied France. Her orders were simple: gather intelligence on high-ranking German officers, report movements of the Wehrmacht, and expose any traitors among the French resistance. But what no one could predict was that love, the most dangerous weapon of all, would turn her mission into a tragedy that even time could not bury. She arrived in Paris under the false identity of Elise Moreau, a quiet translator working for the German High Command. Her French accent was flawless, her composure unshakable. Every word she spoke was calculated, every move rehearsed. Beneath her calm exterior lay a woman burdened with secrets and a heart hardened by war. Her mission was clear: find Captain Erich Reinhardt, an intelligence officer suspected of smuggling information to Berlin's enemies. But when she first met him, nothing went as planned. Erich Reinhardt was not the monster she expected. He was intelligent, disillusioned, and weary of the very empire he served. Behind his cold blue eyes lived the same exhaustion she carried, the quiet hatred for a war that demanded blind obedience. Their first conversation took place in a crowded café in Rue Saint-Honore, where spies, soldiers, and traitors all pretended to be ordinary people. He was polite but guarded. She was cautious but curious. And in that brief exchange of words and glances, two souls who should have been enemies recognized something far deeper: loneliness. Weeks passed. Their meetings became frequent, masked under the pretext of official translations and coded reports. What began as manipulation evolved into understanding, and understanding turned into trust. They shared secrets in whispers, trading fragments of their true selves in a world built on lies. At night, when the bombs echoed over Paris and sirens wailed, she would find refuge in his arms, forgetting that the man she loved wore the uniform of her enemy. For the first time since the war began, she felt alive. But in war, love is treason. The more she cared for him, the more she endangered herself and her country. Every stolen moment came with a cost. She continued to send messages to London, encrypting them with her trembling hands. The data she provided: locations of supply routes, troop movements, radio frequencies, saved countless Allied lives. Yet each report also condemned Erich, whose information she unknowingly exposed. He began to suspect that someone close was leaking classified intelligence. Still, he never accused her. Perhaps he already knew and chose silence. By late 1944, rumors of a double agent began spreading within the German command. The Gestapo launched an internal hunt, interrogating officers and collaborators alike. Elise, now known in code files as the Whispering Rose, became a ghost within her own operation. She destroyed every trace of her true identity and lived each day expecting to die. Erich, caught between duty and love, tried to protect her by feeding his superiors false information. He risked his life again and again to shield the woman he could never truly have. Then came the night that changed everything. December 12, 1944. A storm raged through Paris as Allied bombers roared overhead. Erich had arranged an escape for both of them through a smuggler network bound for Switzerland. He had secured forged papers, safe passage, and a promise of a new life far from the ruins of Europe. But as they prepared to leave, the Gestapo arrived. Someone had betrayed them. Shots echoed through the narrow streets as soldiers stormed the apartment. Elise barely escaped through a hidden passage. Erich was captured before her eyes, dragged into a truck under the floodlights of a burning city. His last words to her were not of regret, but of hope. Survive, for both of us. 4 months, she hid among resistance cells, writing encrypted messages to London, pleading for help. But the war moved faster than love could catch up. Germany began to crumble, cities fell, and the right devoured its own loyal men. When Allied forces liberated Paris in 1945, Elise walked free but hollow. She went to Munich in search of Erich. Prison records listed him as executed on February 3, 1945, for treason. But no body was ever recovered. She never stopped searching. Some say she joined post-war intelligence under a new name. Others claim she lived quietly in Geneva, sending anonymous letters to American embassies every year on the same date, letters written into languages, signed only E and R. In 1976, declassified OSS files revealed several coded correspondence matching her handwriting. One message contained a chilling final line: "He walks with me still, every time thunder falls." Historians who studied those documents believe that Erich Reinhardt may have survived. A few German records show a missing officer, evacuated from a camp near the Austrian border days before Germany's surrender. A man fitting his description was seen in Lisbon months later, boarding a ship under false papers. Whether it was him or another lost soul of war, no one could ever confirm. Years passed, and the legend of the Shadow Rose grew. Veterans whispered about a spy who had outsmarted both sides, a woman whose love nearly altered the course of the war. Some say she became an advisor for American intelligence during the early Cold War, training new recruits in deception and human psychology. She taught them one lesson that haunted every listener: the greatest danger to a spy is not fear, it's feeling. In 1989, when classified archives were briefly opened for historians, a single photograph surfaced from a forgotten OSS folder. It showed a young woman and a man in uniform standing near a fountain in occupied Paris. Their faces were partially hidden, but their hands touched, fingers interlocked, defying the uniforms that divided them. On the back of the photo, written in faint ink, were the words, "Truth dies in silence, but love never does." No one knows what became of her. Some say she died in anonymity, buried in a small French village. Others believe she disappeared into the fog of history, just as she had lived between shadows. But those who have studied her mission agree that her story was more than a tale of espionage. It was a reflection of humanity's deepest paradox: how love can bloom in the darkest places, even among enemies sworn to destroy each other. When veterans of the war were asked about her decades later, one British officer recalled hearing an intercepted German broadcast days before the end of the war. A trembling voice in English had broken through the static. It said only, "Tell him, I kept my promise." The message was never traced, and so the story of the spy who fell in love with her enemy remains an unsolved mystery of World War II, a forbidden love buried beneath coded words, secret missions, and the endless fog of war. A tale not of victory or defeat, but of two hearts that dared to believe in something pure amid destruction. And though history may never reveal their true names, the whispers of their love still echo through the old ruins of Europe, carried by the wind that once howled through the battlefields where love and war became one.